Hello, it's the 19th of November 2025, and I just completed Evil Under the Sun. And I think this is my ninth Agatha Christie book. And I'm really starting to get the belief that I just like Perry Mason much better than Agatha Christie books. This one, well, how am I going to do this? I'm going to try to limit spoilers and maybe call them hints in case you're going to read it. It's not a horrible book, but it's just not great. Um, so the classics of hers are pretty good, right? Murder on Orient Express and things of that nature, Death in the Nile. And then there were three, and there were none, whichever title that is. Um, this one's just not as good. And I've had three or four in a row here where there's a bunch of disjointed facts and there's not really much information. And then Perot just barfs it up at the end and tells you what happened. It's kind of like, okay. Um, so what I liked about this the most was the setting. So it talks about Devonshire. My wife's family originated from Cornwall, England, around Devon, which modern day is called Devon and was called Devonshire before. And so this had Devonshire in it, was quite interesting. Apparently that's where Agatha Christie lived. And there was a specific place right on the coast there called Pixie Cove. And my wife has a tattoo of a pixie on her back. And so that was quite interesting looking up that place. And it's very hard to get to. You have to do a really lengthy, difficult climb to get down to it. And then it fills up with water at certain times of the day. So it's kind of dangerous and rugged. And there's a cave in there. And anyway, that part of it was super interesting for me, looking up all that research. But the book, not so much. So it's basically kind of like, and then there were none, and then there were three, whatever that book is called, where they're on an island, more or less, kind of. But this, I guess, was mainland, but seemed kind of like that. And there's this lady that is like a hoochie mama. She's married, but everybody's talking about her, and she's running around on her husband, they think. And anyway, she goes down to this Pixie Cove and is found dead, and turns out strangled. So the things that you're going to hear about as possible suspects are, of course, a jealous husband, because the rumor is she's running with this other guy, the other guy himself, a woman that's like a crazed hater of her because she's beautiful, perhaps a religious zealot that's mad that she's hoochie mama. Then they go into a possible drug ring that she stumbled onto, which really that came out of nowhere. Kind of like, what? What was the other possible? Oh, this girl that was doing like voodoo, and hence gave her a motive because she hated her. And I'm not going to tell you how it wraps up, but I will tell you it's got a premise in here that is purely just ridiculous. And only perhaps a female could come up with this premise. And the premise is that any woman in a bathing suit could be misinterpreted as any other woman in a bathing suit. In other words, they even say, oh, it's just a little bit of cloth and pretty much just another woman's going to look exactly the same. And I'm sitting there going, huh? Any dude that is a connoisseur of the female form knows that that is not even remotely possible. Women look very distinct with their clothes on, and you get them in a bathing suit. There are really, really a lot of nuances. Even from a distance, you can see the difference in female form from one person to the other. And they don't even discuss in this book the type of bathing suit or the color of the bathing suit. Like if someone saw one person in a bathing suit, was the next person wearing the exact same bathing suit, same color? Didn't even get into that. It was just a real general statement about, oh, that's easy. I thought, no, you wrote that in there way too simple, because I almost guarantee you take one woman and put her out there on the beach and I see her, and then even from a distance, if you're looking from like a boat or a cliff top or whatever, you see one woman laying out there and then another one's out there, you're going to know that it's a different person. So I just didn't buy it. And again, the wrap up was in just the last very few pages. And one reviewer online, because I checked this about 50 pages before I was done because I was not inspired by this book much at all, is what other people thought of it. And I kind of got the vibe from this other reviewer. It says he didn't like any of the characters, therefore he kind of didn't really care. And that is one of the problems with this, because if you say that this woman is like a hoochie mama and she's running around and all this stuff, it's kind of like, okay, somebody killed her, who cares? Maybe that's not the way to feel about it, but I'm sure a lot of people would feel that way about it. And then, of course, at the end, it doesn't turn out to be that in the first place. So maybe you're supposed to feel guilty or something at the end. I don't know. I suspect that at the time when this was written, that part of it could have played more of a role in that than today, because people are more open-minded now than they were back then, I'm sure. And they probably wouldn't be needing to feel guilty at the end of the book, perhaps, than if they did, back when she wrote this. But nonetheless, not a Death on the Nile, not a Murder on the Orient Express, just kind of a ho-hum setting book is the way I would describe it. And I mean, it was interesting, but just not gripping, I guess is the way to say it. It seems like when you set the murder scene far away, perhaps from where everybody is, it lessens the intensity of the story, because it's not that everybody crowded into a room in the same house, where there's a murderer running around. It didn't seem like there was no real danger to anyone there. So that's the secondary thing in a lot of these classic books and movies, is that you kind of need to have that danger that the other people are kind of in peril. And that didn't play a part in here. It was just simply the trying to figure out what's happening. And what I really didn't dig was that somebody would just say, well, I think it's that one because of this. And then they'd kind of talk about it, and then they'd come up for reasons why it didn't make sense. It was kind of like you're just drawing names out of a hat while Poirot is quietly sitting over there coming up with this master solution that no one has any idea about, and he's just going to spring it on you at the end. I just didn't dig it that much. It was kind of an exercise more than enjoyment.